Hello, this is saxophonist Antonio Parker, and this is a conversation in jazz, where we are promoting jazz through telling the stories. Our guest today is the great jazz saxophonist, composer, educator, and bandleader, the one and only Mr. Antonio Hart. We ask you to like, comment, and subscribe to the channel. Hit the bell icon so we can let you know when we are posting another video or going live. We also ask you to donate to our Cash App in order to support the channel and help us to produce future videos. Our Cash App is $Jazzology 101. That's $Jazzology 101. Enjoy the video. Hi, I'm saxophonist Antonio Parker, and this is a conversation in jazz. Our guest today is a virtuoso saxophonist, a world-class composer, educator, and bandleader. He gained wide recognition working with the late great jazz trumpeter, Mr. Roy Hargrove, as well as being a member of an all-star aggregation of young up-and-coming jazz artists called the Jazz Futures. He has performed with the likes of the Duke Ellington Big Band, the Mingus Big Band, the Dave Howland Big Band, the Dizzy Gillespie Big Band, and more. He is a professor at Queens College in New York and one of the leading figures in a period of jazz I call the Young Lions generation. Please welcome my friend, my good brother, the one and only Mr. Antonio Hart.
Antonio Parker.
How you doing, good brother?
Wonderful.
Yes.
To be here with you,
man. Thank you for coming on a conversation in jazz.
Thank you for having me.
Oh man, I'm honored. So what we do here, man, is I call it we learn the story behind the story.
Right.
And I think I met you late 80s, early 90s.
Mm-hmm.
I think, I'm gonna tell you what happened. I don't know if you remembered it. We had a thing called Jazz in the Punch Out at Howard University.
Okay.
And in comes Antonio Hart, Delfeo Marsalis, Roy Hargrove, and y'all came in. y'all took your horns out and just started killing. And I think Kevin Levi, you remember Kevin Levi? Mm-hmm. Kevin Levi was playing alto, and y'all brought us our level up. Mm-hmm. But this happened, man. I think y'all were coming from Berklee at the time.
Yeah, definitely.
And man, y'all came, and man, and it just went to a whole nother level, man. So that's where I first met you.
I kind of remember that now.
Yeah. I talked to Delfeo. He remembers that. Uh-huh. Yeah. Anyway, man, so my first question I ask every guest is, who is Antonio Hart?
That's a good question. That's multi-dimensional, right? Yeah. But as an artist, I think Antonio is someone that's just trying to be honest, trying to find honest expression, someone that appreciates the lineage and the history, at the same time working towards his own personal voice. Yeah. Like John Coltrane said, I think about this all the time, trying to be a force for good. So at all times, my intention is to do something positive for humanity, whether it be the way I play the saxophone, the way I compose, the way I write, the way I teach. Everything is all about putting out positive vibration, so that's really where I stand.
Yeah. And what has this journey been? I knew you since like I said, late 80s, early 90s, and I saw your evolution, man, and it's wonderful. And I heard you last night, man, it's just inspiring for me as a saxophone player, man, seeing how you just are so consistent. Wow. And you've always been that way. So, but what has this journey been like for you? We were talking in the car coming up here, and some people would look at the outside because it looked like you were just riding high to me. Yeah. But what has it been coming from your perspective?
I mean, so many wonderful moments, right? Mm-hmm. Moments that I think people would dream for. But then there have been a lot of lonely, sad moments. Yeah. So tear moments and moments of doubt and wondering, is this the right path?
Wow.
You know, but fortunately in those down moments, I had great mentors and my faith, you know, and people that really pushed me to continue when I thought it was time to give up. So it's okay.
I told you it's very informal. It's all good.
It's been wonderful. Like I told you in the car, like being on this side of it and seeing like 30 years before that Antonio and those experiences, I see how it's allowed me to be who I am today. So I'm thankful for those lessons. At the time I didn't think of them as lessons. I thought it was like just stuff is happening to me and why. But those lessons have informed me in a way that made me a better person, a better musician, better educator. So I'm really thankful for those hill and valley moments.
No doubt.
Yeah.
Could you see back then? Could you envision where the different experiences you would have? Could you see that was like? Because I talked to some cats. I remember talking to Corker and Holt. And he said, man, they actually can see where they want to be, and they end up there. Could you see that back then?
I didn't, man. Like I told you, I didn't dream this life, you know? I really thought, that I was going to get my education degree at Berklee, which I did, get my master's and get a PhD, and go back to Baltimore, have a family, and be a music teacher. That was what I visualized. And God had other plans for me. Other things happened. So yeah, making recordings with Roy and touring and playing with all these masters like Dizzy Gillespie and all those people, I didn't visualize that because first I started out playing so late. You know, you got people like McBride and Roy that are already playing at such a high level at a young age. I was like, well, I got to catch up to these guys, you know, and yeah, they were patient with me and gave me a platform to grow, and I'm very thankful for that. But no, I never, and I didn't feel like I was worthy of it. You know, I never thought I was worthy of some of these situations playing with Nat Adley, Cannonball's brother, and all these people.
Wow.
Like, you know, I was like, I felt very honored, but I never really appreciated it like I appreciate it now. All I wanted to do was like, once I got it, work hard to be there so I could stay there, you know? So it's not mind-boggling, but it's just, it makes me wonder why I was picked, you know, because there's so many great musicians that could do everything that I can do. But for whatever reason, this was my chosen path, you know.
You think God chooses people and like, we were talking in the car, you know, people can see what you have and want to covet what you have or your blessings instead of focusing on whatever blessings they have. Do you feel that certain people and certain opportunities was already pre-designed, or do you believe that it was your work and planning that got you where you are?
I want to believe it's a combination of both, but again, because I didn't have that trajectory in my mind thinking this was going to happen to me, I choose to believe there was some divine order that chose me for those situations, because the way I grew up in Baltimore, what I went through education-wise and things, is no way in the world you could look at that picture and see where I am today.
Wow.
You know, yes, hard work, sacrifices from my mom and family and mentors, definitely. But there had to be something else, man. I really believe there was something else that was like, that chose me.
You've always, every time I've seen you, you always was thankful to God.
Yeah.
Yeah. How has your faith, how has that gotten you through some of these life experiences?
And when you can't explain things and you know, you realize you don't have power, you know, and like for me, certain things that really still blow my mind, like being in an airplane. You think about this heavy airplane with 300 and 400 people in it. It's in the air for hours.
Yeah.
And yes, you could talk about engines and, you know, all these mechanical things, but I'm still amazed at why can't I just jump and stay in the air by myself? You know, that lets me know that man was given this knowledge to create something that was really beautiful to allow us to travel the world. But, you know, I can't make myself breathe. I can't make my heart beat. You know, we understand biology and all this stuff, but that's something else. The fact that we wake up in the morning, you know, all these things that happen when you see childbirth, which is really dangerous and could, you know, could kill the mom. And this has been happening for thousands and thousands of years. So yeah, and like we were talking about seeing like the next generation of young musicians, and you see how talented they are, you know, and you see where they can go. For me, that's the greatest gift when I see that.
Wow.
When I see somebody and I'm like, wow, they have it already. And if they stay centered, they stay grounded and have the right tutelage, they're going to do something amazing. And I saw that with McBride. I saw that with Hargrove. I saw that with Nicholas Payton. I've seen it with so many musicians, you know, yourself included. It's I get happy when I see that. Yeah. And then it just makes me want to work harder. But yes, I definitely believe that there's some divine order that definitely that puts us on the path. But like they say in Christianity, you have that choice though. So you either do it that way or you can go that way too. So that could be your thing, you know, and maybe it won't be your thing because you took that other road, you know. No doubt. Possibly.
So you a native Baltimorean?
Yep.
What was it like growing up in Baltimore for you?
I mean, it was cool growing up younger.
Are you from the hood? Like,
yes. Yes and no. Like, I kind of stayed at my grandmother's house. It was kind of like in the suburbs, you know, when my mom got separated and whatever. We moved in with my grandparents, but then we moved into different neighborhoods that were neighborhoods, you know, and yeah, I saw a lot of stuff, man. You know. Yeah. That's what it's funny. My boy actually starred in The Wire. His name's Lawrence Gilliard. I forgot he played this character called D'Angelo or something, right? And people were like, "Did you watch The Wire?" And I said, "Nah, not really, because I lived it. I saw it. Wow. You know, I saw the guys on the corner. I saw the guy with the bullet hole in his head, and you know, I saw that stuff, man. So it wasn't, you know, I saw the guys doing the drug deals. Yeah. So it wasn't something that was glamorous to me or something that I needed to see. I watched it because of Larry being on it and being somebody that I went to school with. But I mean, but beyond all that, Baltimore is a beautiful city, man. It's, you know, blue collar workers and family. You know, I looked forward to like the cookouts, the 4th of July cookouts, the smell of the cookouts in the backyard, putting down the newspaper and having crabs and, you know, there were some beautiful things that came out of it. And then, you know, man, I got to see Gary Bartz all the time. You know, I didn't know who Gary Bartz was. He was just a older saxophone player, not knowing that he's one of the greatest saxophone players in history. That was my first introduction to jazz, you know, who made me, every time I would go down in the closet and pull out my horn to play, he just made me listen for a long time. I think I played with him one time. You know, I would go in there and pull out my horn, put it away, pull out my horn, put it away. And then one time he let me play. And, you know, I got to see him play with Woody Shaw. I got to see Junior Cook at the Closet. But then, you know, Gary Thomas, Arnold Sterling, Philip Harper was, you know, the Harper brothers were down there. So many people that came out of that town.
Yeah, it's something amazing in the water in Baltimore, man. Y'all just produce some. I mean, like Warren Wolf. I mean,
Tim Green, Mark Gross, Lee Pearson.
It's just
But I mean,
Cyrus Chestnut.
But I mean, I think it's this whole, what do they call it? The DMV. This whole DMV area, man. It's just like, for me, it's Baltimore, but DC and Virginia is included. And if we put all three of them together, like the names are just, the list is just crazy. Yeah.
Well, I used to play in Baltimore a lot in the early 90s with Dante Winslow.
Dante Winslow.
Sportsman's Lounge, The Haven.
Mickey Fields, Andy Ennis. Say the names,
Yeah, man. And it always reminded me of Philly because that the people,
Oregon.
They loved the people was into the music.
They knew the music.
Yeah, they knew the music. Yeah, and so when I was in high school, I would go to Natalie's on 40th Market. I got to see Hank Mobley.
Wow.
And him play on One Love. And all them and the people were into the music, man. Listeners, they were just, and that I got that same feeling when I played in Baltimore, man.
So they would tell you back then.
Yeah.
They would tell you if you weren't dealing, and that's when we had the Left Bank Jazz Society that brought everybody down there. But like I got to see like the famous ballroom where they really played before they started moving around to like Coppin State and places like that. But I saw something I told him this right before he passed. I saw Tommy Williams playing with the Towson State Big Band, was conducted by Hank Levy, when he was leaving the band. It was like his last performance.
Wow.
And my uncle Junior, who actually, man, I miss him. He's the reason I started playing jazz, because when we lived with my grandmother, he lived there too, and I would just hang out in his room, just, that was like a mentor, and he would be playing Page One and First Light, playing all these jazz. I didn't know what it was.
Yeah.
It was just Uncle Junior's music, but I was introduced to jazz through him, and then listening to Morgan State. What was that?
The
radio
jazz
station?
Yeah, I know you're talking about.
Was it? I know here is PFW, right? Yeah, and listening to the one here, I was listening to jazz, man. And the only regret is my uncle never saw me play live, but I think he heard me on the radio and stuff like that, right? Okay. But he was, man, Baltimore was is a rich city.
No doubt.
Yeah.
No doubt. Now, do you come from a musical family?
Well, my biological father played saxophone, but we don't have in a relationship. So it's really weird that I ended up playing saxophone, playing the instrument that he played. I don't know why I chose it. It just I know I chose it. I was going to this elementary school, and they had a band playing, and this guy had these things on stands, right? And he picked up and played it, and I was like, I don't know what that is. I want to do that. And that was it. I met the music teacher. I said, I want to play that thing. Oh, it's called a saxophone, literally. And he was like, well, you're too young. You have to wait a year. I waited a year. You have to get a reed. And I remember we went to this mall, Mondawmin Mall. And at that time, you go to a music store, you could buy some reeds, like a Rigo reed or something in the brown box. And my mom bought me one reed, and I kept it in my sock. Sock, bro. So, and this teacher, his name was Ford. I remember that. And when he came, I pulled the reed out, and it was all chipped. Wow. He was like, I don't know if it's going to play. And I was like, and I remember the first note, concert F. And, that was it.
Wow.
So
saxophone was your first instrument?
Yeah, that's the first thing I picked up. Yeah.
You remember what grade you were in?
And so I was 7 about 7. So what's that, second, third grade? But it wasn't serious. It was just like, playing whenever he came, to the school. And then I went to the junior high school, Garrison, that was probably the worst period of my life in terms of education, because that was just rough going to school. It was one of those kind of schools, right? And but there was a teacher that gave me a little bit of training, and then he wasn't so cool to me at periods. But that's where, because I didn't like school to me. I always loved school, but just going to school was like preparing to go to war. It was like, you didn't know what you were going to get, man. You do your homework and someone want to fight you. You play saxophone and some little girl like you and somebody want to fight you, or somebody just wants to fight you. And it got to the point where, I was playing hooky, not going to school. But the only time I enjoyed school was like, and you weren't really learning anything. It was like daycare for grown kids. But the only thing I enjoyed was playing that saxophone.
So you went to school bands and that sort of thing?
If you want to call it a band. Yeah. But what happened was one of the guys that went there got accepted into the School for the Arts. A guy named Tim Melvin. And that senior year, my 9th grade year, they cut out all the music and art in the Baltimore City Public Schools.
Wow.
So I would have had my 9th grade year with the only thing that really made me want to go to school. So I don't know what he did. He told these people about me at the school, and I got an audition. And they called me and said, it was like a Friday or something, we want you to come Monday and prepare a piece. I didn't have anything. So you remember the Universal Method book?
Yep.
So I got in the back, Hungarian Dance No. 5. Yep. Dun, dun, dun. So I started playing it, but I remember it was one measure that I was getting wrong. It was like a dotted 8/16 or something, right? I was messing it up. So the teacher, Dr. Ford, was like, "Oh, read that measure right there," and I kept on messing it up, right? Because I just learned it phonetically over the phone with Timmy, like that way. We sang it and I just practiced it. And he said, "Are you reading that?" I said, "I think so." He said, "Well, how did you learn this?" I said, "I learned it on the phone Friday." So I think that's what got me in, because that school, people that came in, they were already taking private lessons, doing the Peabody, doing prep stuff, So I went from Garrison. that was like
That's the middle school.
The middle school that was like just not the best place. Then I went to this place where I had real academics. I had a private teacher. I was exposed to these beautiful young girls in leotards and stuff I'd never seen before.
Yeah.
And, or, just really exposed to real education. And man, I almost got kicked out because I wasn't prepared to be there. Like my first year there, I was in summer school because I failed like French, I failed English, or, just like I wasn't prepared, So I remember, man, you talking about faith, how many times I was on my knees. I mean, like for real, on my knees, like, God, I cannot go back here. Please don't send me back here. Please. And I just prayed and prayed and prayed, and I got through. It's not, I got a rhythm, and I was able to stay there. Because at first they thought they would have to send me somewhere else for academics and just come there for music. I said, no, I'm not an idiot. Yeah. I just got to apply myself. So I did that, and I got through it, and took the SAT. Didn't do so great on SAT and all that stuff. I wasn't an academic in that respect. But by the time I got to college, that part was easy for me because now I knew, and I had the work ethic. I knew what it took. I believed in myself in that respect. But yeah, when I got to Berklee, man, that part was easy. But I was at the lowest level musically because I chose jazz and I was trained with the European classical thing.
So you initially, when you were playing saxophone, were you self-taught or did you have formal training? Because
not until School for the Arts.
Okay, wow.
That's when I had my first teacher. So that was like 14.
So up until that point, you were kind of
trying to figure it out. Like we do. Right. It's nothing. That's what we do, right? You pick up the horn, you hear a song on the radio. Careless Whisper. Yeah. Let me figure out this melody, or whatever was popular with saxophone. Grover Watson, Mr. Magic. You try to learn it, your way. So it was a long time before I discovered like Charlie Parker and Sonny Stitt, and then the names go on and on. What I was listening to were any of the pop songs that had saxophonists, Sade and all this stuff. Yeah. But definitely Grover Washington was Outkast. That's my dude. Yeah, that was so that was that's what I aspired to. But then I like I said, I got turned on to Sonny Stitt and these people when I got to Berklee. My teacher Bill Pierce gave me this tape with all these alto players, I think with Oliver Nelson and Eric Dolphy, and he said, "This is what I want you to study." And because I was so hungry, whatever he told me to do, I did. So he said, "I want you to learn this blues solo." I remember, and it was like probably the first time I transcribed, and it was a long blues, probably like 10 minutes long, and I learned the whole thing. Yeah. And he was sitting at the piano comping. It was a blues in F, and I'm playing, and he stopped. He said, "You learned it?" I said, "You told me to." I was like, yes. Wow. My teacher told me, and from what I understand, I'm the only student that ever did that.
Wow.
I was like, I came here because you were a jazz messenger, and I want to do whatever you tell me to do. So maybe I can be a jazz messenger one day.
Man, I wish I was stubborn as I was one of them kids, man, that just kind of I listened to my teacher. I did that, but I was trying to figure it out my And I wish I had listened more. But let me ask you a question. When I first started playing the saxophone, I knew this is what I want to do. Mm-hmm. Did you have that experience? How did you realize you wanted to pursue music? At what point?
I always knew music, because my grandmother had a piano in the house. Mm-hmm. It didn't really play. It was one of those player pianos, so like some keys worked in it. But I was always opening up the book and trying to read. And my uncle had a trumpet in his bedroom, and I would be trying to play, playing this when he wasn't home, pick up his trumpet and play. So it was always music. But I think when I got accepted at the School for the Arts, I was like, yeah, this is me.
Gotcha.
This is where I feel the most peace, the most happy. And it was rough, man, because kids are mean, right?
Oh man!
And cats were like, they gave me the blues at the School for the Arts, man. I would, it was. I mean, they gave me a hard time, man, and it was like a joke. They were like, "Yeah, Antonio, he's gonna be like a postman by day and a weekend musician."
Wow.
Yeah, cats were cruel, man. Or I'll be practicing like, "You sound horrible."
Yeah.
I was like, I'm trying.
Yeah. So where'd you get your work ethic from? Because how'd you cultivate that?
It's just like I said, at the School for the Arts, I realized this was a special situation and I couldn't blow it. So I had to like really practice. But I think I really started practicing and really focusing at Berklee because I started out low man on the totem pole, and I wanted to be accepted and be around the cats that could play. So, and I had to work. I didn't have the luxury of having money. Even though I took out the loans, I still had to work to survive. And so when I had time to practice, I had to be focused.
Wow.
I had to get the most out of every moment I had because I would wake up. Sometimes I wake up like 2 o'clock in the morning to only sweating,
Wow.
and just go down in the practice room and practice. Then get up in the morning, go to class, go to work, come back. It was whatever the schedule was, and I just knew that this was an opportunity. I knew I didn't have money. With cats on full scholarships. You talking about Delphi, people that were on full scholarships. I didn't have that.
Wow.
And I just knew I wanted to grow. I wanted to grow, and so I had to focus.
Yeah. Let's talk about Berklee. What made you choose Berklee?
I was the only one that accepted me.
Really? Did you put out for some other places?
Yeah, North Texas, University of Miami, Berklee. I want to say if there was somewhere else, but Berklee's the only one that accepted me.
Wow.
And gave me scholarship. Again, and I think part of that was my playing for sure, but another part was academically. Berklee gave me a shot.
Gotcha.
So I overcame a lot of those things by just saying, yes, I can just study this and get it together. But unfortunately, the stuff that I had before didn't prepare me to be here academically. Like some people, they go to the Friends schools and all these schools that are college prep schools. So academically, they were astute, and then they were able to take private lessons, and that just wasn't my story. So yeah.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
And what was your major at Berklee?
Music ed.
Music ed?
I was a dual major at first. I was performance and music ed. And I just thought about it. I said, well, I don't think Art Blakey's going to ask me for my degree, right? and he didn't.
Yeah.
He didn't, right? So I said, again, I started out later playing jazz and everybody else. These cats were coming in playing circles around me. And I was like, wow, I don't know if I'm going to have a career doing with, being out there, but let me do something that's practical where I'm still in music. And that's when I chose education.
Do you remember some of the musicians that were at Berklee when you were there?
Oh yeah, man. Layla Hathaway came in with me. This lady named Paula Cole, she wrote the theme song for Dawson's Creek. Abe Laborio, the drummer, I saw him in Europe playing with Sting and Paul McCartney. Mark Turner.
Wow.
Kirk Rosenwinkel, Jorge Rossi, Mercedes Rossi, his sister, she passed away. George Benson's son was there.
Wow.
Quincy Jones' son was there. I don't know how many sons, but he was like an engineer. And some people would come and go, man. But I think Maynard Ferguson's daughter was there.
Was Jasper Redmond there when you were there?
He was at Harvard.
Okay, that's right. Jasper, he didn't go to Berklee, right?
No, he went to Harvard.
Oh, he went to Harvard. That's right. Okay.
Yeah. But Josh was there. Another piano player named Johnny King was at Harvard. I think he's a lawyer, but he's a great piano player. Yeah, I mean, it was a lot of people, man. He wasn't at Berklee, but I met David Sanchez hanging out there. Danilo probably just graduated. Cyrus, they were gone, but they were like just right before. But Javon Jackson, Mark Gross, this guy named Warren Hill, more smooth player. It was crazy, wow. Man. It was really crazy, and some heavy metal dudes. I don't remember the names because I always liked them, man. The cats with the big hair, and just like you see in the videos, that's what they did, and they were serious about what they did.
Now, did Roy Hargrove go to Berklee for a period?
He was there for a couple years.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So, what was that experience like? I mean, what did Berklee do for you as a person and as a musician?
Well, I think the best part about any university, but especially Berklee, because it's international, so you're meeting people from all over the world. So you're getting access to different cultures and experience. So that was the best part about Berklee. Like my first year there, these cats were like, "Man, you want to go to Paris?" Again, I'm like this kid from Baltimore. I've seen books of the Eiffel Tower. I was like, it's a real place. I'm like, my trajectory. And I remember like telling my mom for the summer, I'm going to Paris, and we go get a suitcase, and she gives me $200, and I get on this plane, and I'm on a plane for 7 hours, which I've never been on before, and I'm freaking out again. Like, how is this in the air? Are we going to come down safely? Like all this stuff.
Wow.
And next thing I know, I'm 18 years old, man, and I'm landing in Paris and playing in Paris, and then going to Bordeaux, getting drunk for the first time. Yeah, it was a horrible experience. But just and other things, going to the beach and they're nude on the beach, and I'm like, what's going on here, right? Yeah, that was an experience. But that was the great thing. I met friends from all over the world, man. And then like when I started traveling as a professional, I'll see these guys in different countries and that I went to school with, and that became celebrities in their own right, just my classmates. When I see Layla all the time, she's an icon now, and Mark Turner is considered a saxophone god, and Seamus Blake, I forgot another tenor player, so all these people that were just my boys, when I see them, they like you call me Tony, right?
Yeah.
Most people know me as Antonio, but when somebody calls you Tony, they've known me for a long time. And when I see him, it's like, what's up? It's like, what's up, Mark? And Mark Turner was incredible, man. I always tell this story because when he came to Berklee, he played just like Michael Brecker. Verbatim.
Wow.
He was incredible. And I remember saying, Mark, why don't you, because I was stupid, like, why don't you check out one of these black musicians, Why don't you check out somebody, And it's funny because I met Michael Breck. I played with him one time at the Vanguard. It was something when I was with GRP. It was Pat Metheny, me, and Michael Breck and Stanley Turrentine. Wow. I can't believe that I was there. But I said, Mark, why don't you check out somebody else? Check out somebody like John Coltrane. I swear to you, he came back with a book this thick, like a real book, of his notes from the summer. He sounded like John Coltrane in the 60s. Exactly.
Wow.
Verbatim. Like the Michael Brecker stuff was gone. And then one time we did a jam session, man. I was so mad at Turner. I don't know if you remember. We did this jam session. He was taking a solo, bruh. He just kept playing and playing and playing and playing. And I'm like, come on, bro. It's a jam session. I went to my room. I went up to the dorm, came back, and he was still playing. I was like, come on, Mark.
Yeah.
Right? But he was just in his zone, man. And I think he did a recital where he did Interstellar Space and all that stuff.
Wow.
Yeah, Marcus. But then I was like, Mark, that's too much John Coltrane. Went back, came back. Joe Henderson.
Wow.
I mean, he just has a brilliant mind, man. It's just that was incredible, like seeing him, and he would just be in the practice room 8-10 hours, man. And I'd be next door, and I wouldn't leave the practice room till he left. We would stay in the practice room, man, and for hours, man. He would say some stuff like, Mark is a little older, but he just had this other thing, man. He talked to me about the vibration of the saxophone and stuff like that. I didn't understand.
Wow.
That I understood what he was talking about later. And I got to hang out with him.
Is he like a genius kind of cat?
Yeah. He's intellectually on a high level, most definitely.
Where's he from?
He's from California somewhere.
Oh wow!
I think he moved back out there. Yeah, Mark is special.
I want to talk about your mom, man. Mm-hmm. Is your mom still around?
Yeah, she's in Baltimore.
Okay. How? I'm sure she's proud of you.
I hope so.
Yeah. So, was she very supportive?
In her way, because of probably the situation with my biological father. She was probably concerned about her son getting into music. So, there were some struggles with me deciding to do that. But I think she was, like I said, she was supportive in her own way.
Okay.
And I think I tried to assure her that I was cool by going to college, by doing the things that I'm doing. I didn't get caught up into all this craziness. So I think, and she's seen the things that I've done. So I think she appreciates it more now.
Cool. I wanted to talk about your musicianship, which something I admire, and I want to get some secrets. One thing I like when I listen to you over the years, man, you have an incredible sense of time, sense of and rhythm.
Mm-hmm.
I watch you. You don't even tap your foot.
Sometimes.
But how did you develop that?
I think I'm a frustrated drummer. Like it's two things. If I see a piano and a drum set, I'm constantly trying to figure out stuff and fill out the groove. I think it's gotten better with playing with Dave Holland.
Okay.
Because all his stuff is in different meters. Mm-hmm. And it used to, like, I remember the first gig I did with him was in China in '98, and it was supposed to be the quintet, and Robin couldn't make it, and Chris Potter was playing with Paul Motion, so I ended up playing quartet. So I for like 4 months, I think the album was called Prime Directive. I would just go in my office and just play with the CD, play the music, and I couldn't understand what the hell was going on, right?
But when you're playing, are you focusing on the drum, or you keeping your own internal time?
I think I'm at the point now that I'm just listening to everything around me. Yes, I'm focused on, like when I was playing with the young brother last night. Yeah, I'm listening to everything he does and seeing where he leaves space and feeling the lock between the bass and the drums and I'm listening to everything at this point.
So you didn't go through a period where you had the metronome on 2 and 4 and playing against the metronome?
I put the metronome on 1 and 3.
Okay.
Yeah, because jazz is really 1 and 3. It's like gospel music. It's our thing.
Wow.
If you look at Louis Armstrong count out for composition, he's going 1, 1, 1, 1, 1. It's that tradition. Really, that's our thing. Boom.
Yeah, I got you.
So that if you understand where 1 is, I don't think about the 2 and 4 at all. Okay. Always, and it locks the beat in.
So
Bill Pierce told me that when I first got to Berklee, and that because I always thought 2 and 4, but now I understand, especially from the tradition of the bands and stuff that our music comes from, the marching bands and also everything is 1 and 3.
Wow.
Yeah,
see, I just learned something. How did you develop? First of all, do you have perfect pitch?
Oh no, I have good relative pitch though.
How did you develop your ears?
Transcribing.
Really?
Yeah, transcribing, and like I would test myself to like hear a note and just bang it on the piano to make sure I'm there. And like when I like even now I'm not holding the saxophone, but I can hear a concert F, I can hear D flat, I can hear the A flat, I can hear that. And a lot of times I do it based on compositions. So if I hear like a comp like beat, so I'm thinking about ba da be da da da. So it's like certain pitches take me certain ways. Like when I play a concert E or a C sharp on an alto, it has a certain kind of emotion to me. So like I hear and feel the sound at the same time.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Wow. Now, how do you listen to music? Like, meaning that some people synthesize and hear the whole thing together. Some people are analytical. They might say, okay, I want to focus on the drums, focus on this. Like when you listen to music, do you have a particular methodology of how you approach listening?
It really depends on what I'm listening for. If I'm listening for enjoyment, I have to not do that. Because us as musicians, our brain is always trying to figure out what's going on.
Yeah.
So it's kind of hard to just listen to music just to enjoy it, But depending on who I'm listening to, like right now, I'm listening a lot to Eric Dolphy, right? That's like, I'm just going crazy with Eric Dolphy. And not so much to transcribe what he's playing, get some ideas, but for me, I'm listening for spirit. Like, cause that's what turns me on about him. Like when I listen to Eric Dolphy, I hear like a warrior. I feel somebody that's totally sure of himself, that doesn't question himself, that loves himself and says, take me or leave me. And not from a arrogant standpoint, it's like, I just have to play this way. I have no choice.
What's your impression or opinion of Ornette Coleman?
Same thing. They're both, from my study, they're both well astute and students of Charlie Parker. No doubt.
Yes.
And they've taken their understanding. Gary Bartz told me, this was about a couple weeks ago, because we were talking about Eric Dolphy, because they were friends. He said probably the one that got closest to Charlie Parker was Ornette Coleman.
Wow.
In his opinion. And but when I listen to them play, I hear all that tradition in their playing. But again, it's like our desires, we're trying to be artists. I always tell my students there are two people for me, or two kinds of artists. There's the musician. The musician can show up, does the gig, can read and do everything, and gets the money, go home. The artist does exactly that, but then the artist takes it to another level where they go on a trip. They take you, they tell a story. You get a chance to see inside their soul. They give you an open door to see their soul. And that's the people that I really appreciate, that's what I listen for. You know, so again, like with Eric Dolphy, there's some things that I'll try to transcribe just to understand what he's doing. But for the most part, I listen to him because of how it makes me feel, and it's like there's no fear. It's like this is what I do, and I hear him playing over standards. I hear him playing over his original composition and how he plays with people. But you listen to the stuff he did with Oliver Nelson, man. He has all that stuff. He has all the tradition. You know, his rhythmic approach is a little different. Of course, his intervals, and that's because he was into birds and all this stuff. And from what I understand, he studied a lot of European classical music. It's obvious, right? But it depends on who I'm listening to. I'll listen to let's see who else was I checking out. Paul Desmond, all about sound. But then I'm listening to him, like really analyzing him in a laboratory. I'm listening, trying to hear like how much air is he putting in that horn. You know, why does it sound so light and less edgy sounding? You know, like how even is his horn from the bottom to the top, and even when he plays in the altissimo range, how relaxed he is. So then it gets me back to Johnny Hodges and Benny Carter, like the people that I really love. Those guys that when you look at videos, I was looking at Johnny Hodges with a student the other day, and he's looking at audience. He's like all over the place, just looking around like this, and all his magic is coming out of his horn. Wow. And then I got that from sitting next to Frank West, how, you know, like a lot of young people think they got to be, you know, you got to do all that stuff. And even including myself. So I'm trying to figure out how I can get to the point now.
Effortless mastery kind of thing.
Well, yeah, if you want to put it into terms, but just where I could just sit down, pick up my horn, like we're sitting here now, and I'm playing, and the same energy comes out, but I don't have to be all contorted and show all that energy. I think people saw those pictures of John Coltrane or those videos and think that's how they have to be to express themselves. And you do a lot of things on a technical standpoint. By doing that, you're doing a lot of things to yourself. You're constricting your shoulders, your chest is closing up, you're closing your throat, you're biting down on the mouthpiece, and you're biting on the mouthpiece, the reed can't vibrate. Yeah. So now the reason you're doing that is because I'm trying to get air in the horn and I'm fighting myself.
Yeah. And Bird seemed like he just
because that was that tradition, man. Yeah. Like and it's when I see people play like that, like somebody like Ralph Bowen, Potter, trying to think of some other players. That guy we were talking about, Pat Bartley, Patrick Bartley, is that right?
Yeah.
Miguel Zenon. It's a couple players when I watch them play, because that's what I do. I analyze like posture and things like that. They're very relaxed when they play, and they're very.
Used to have a harness. Used to have a harness.
I still do.
Okay.
Yeah, that's why. I don't play with neck straps because I don't like anything constricting my neck, and I don't like to feel things on my shoulders anymore. So yeah, but yeah. So back to a long-winded answer. So it depends on what I'm listening for. You know, sometimes I am listening to a recording. I want to hear what Jimmy Cobb is doing, just playing quarter notes on the ride cymbal. I'm listening to Max Roach and what he's doing. Like, you know, I would just watch that documentary. So it made me go back and, you know, investigate him in a deeper. And
you told a story about Max Roach yesterday about y'all ride
in a limousine.
Yeah, in a limousine together.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. It was funny because his saxophone player, Odine Pope, I think that was his name.
Yeah.
Something was happening where he couldn't make the gig. And that's why I got the call. And I get there, but I'm playing, and Odine Pope shows up, and he's at the stage, right, and looking at me like this. So I'm playing, I'm playing like this, my eyes closed, and I know he's there, and I'm like this. I'm like, because if this guy jumps on the stage, I'm about to be out of here, bro. I never forget that moment.
Wow.
But it was funny, though. The thing that was deep, bro, because I went into that gig saying I'm going to play Antonio Hart the way he plays, and it wasn't lining up with Max Roach. So I had to change my playing because it was his gig.
Oh, wow.
You know, and I learned to give way to the situation. You know, and because you get some people, well, this is the way I play, and you just take it or leave. But that's not to the service of the music. Yeah. That's just service to your ego.
Yeah.
You know, so I never forgot that because I was trying to play a certain way, and I was like, he's not given to that. So I want to have the best out of experience of this. So when I changed my plan, then we were able to lock in and have a good time.
Wow, beautiful. I want to go back to Berklee. Because you were telling me about a place called
Wally's.
Wally's. What's Wally's?
Wally's was the club that you went to sharpen your knife. You know, you practice every day at college.
And this is in Boston.
Yeah, it's I guess Mass Ave is where the main building is, and maybe 10 blocks down in the neighborhood, right? And yeah, that was the place, man. I remember going there, and a little small place, and it was like, oh, we had this lady at the bar named Miss Ducky, and you walk in, you're like, buy a drink, you gotta buy a drink, you know, one of those kind of clubs, you know, I want some water, still $2, you know, that kind of thing.
We had that here in DC, one step.
Exactly, exactly. What was her name? Mabuchi, that lady was?
Yeah,
the lady. But anyway, so that was the place that if you were like an up and coming musician, you would get that gig, right? And you play for
you would lead the jam session.
Yeah, you would lead the jam session. And you get $15. You play for like 5 hours.
Wow.
You get $15, and you go get some French fries and chicken wings. You know, put some barbecue sauce on it. You know, you good, right? College student. But yeah, so I got a chance to run that gig for a couple years.
And that's a lineage. You was telling me about who Branford ran it?
Yeah, Branford, I believe Greg Osby, Donald Harrison.
Wow.
This guy named Anthony Peterson, this great guitar player. I wonder what happened to him. He was amazing. He was a teacher at Berklee for a second, but he played differently. He had his own thing. Bunch of cats, man.
Wow.
Yeah, and that's, you know, you were asking me, I might as well lead that. That's why I met Roy.
Yes, I was getting into it. So tell us how you met we're going to talk about Roy Hargrove. Tell us how you met. Oh yeah, I want to tell you one time, because I was at Howard when you started playing with Roy, and we used to, when Roy would come in town, we would go. Y'all would play at Blues Island, and we would get in the car and just go and try to get it, find a way to get it. Man, y'all were playing so much music, man. And I remember y'all coming off the stage playing the theme from Sanford and Son. I said, man, y'all, oh man, that was a great time, man.
Yeah, we used to have fun, man. Yeah. Like, because it was all new. It was just like, you know, I don't think we were thinking about being famous or stars. We just had an opportunity to play, and that's all we did. Like Roy, like later on when we played together, we barely talked to each other, but we spent time together. Like we were like, he lived in New York before I moved to New York, and he had this little apartment about the size of the stage. I mean, literally, it was about the size of the stage. And we were like, I go to his house on Houston Street. We get on the train and we go to Bradley's. Then we go up to Harlem. We go to, it was called Augie's. Now it's called Smoke. We would go to like these after hour places and come out and the sun is up. And we did that. If we weren't on the road, we would go to jam sessions all the time. And every once in a while we would have a conversation, but we didn't really talk that much. We talked on the bandstand.
Wow.
It was really deep, man. Like that connection. And I've played with a lot of amazing trumpet players, but never having that kind of symbiotic connection that I had with Roy. But
how'd you meet him?
Well, we heard about him.
Okay.
We heard about this young, you know, we were feeling ourselves. We were the cats at Berklee now. And it was like this young hot shot that's coming to Berklee. And we were like, all right, come down to Wally's. Let's see what you can do. Right? So we were there playing, and this guy comes in. He has sunglasses on, has on a button-down collar shirt, has on a tweed blazer, and he had his trumpet under his arm, and he had like a box of cigarettes, like this European box. He was like, yeah, baby, y'all sound good, man. Can I sit in? And we're like, yeah, we've been waiting for you. Yeah, come up on the bandstand. Let's see what you can do. And we were like, enough said, right?
Wow.
And then he's like, man, I like you, man, because you remind me of Kenny Garrett, because that was my cat at the time. Kenny was a mentor at that time for me. So that's how we started playing together. And that band you were talking about with Delphio, that was a Berklee band that we won this competition, but they took it away from us. I don't want to go into that story. But that's when Roy and I realized that we could really play together. But man, that's probably of the musicians that I met that just left me in awe, the top two are McBride and Roy.
Wow. Yeah.
And, you know, I always tell people when they ask the story, people ask me about my time with him. We, with Berklee and then in the band for like 3.5 years, the world did not see how talented he was. I saw how talented Roy was. But
wow,
like what the world saw, I would say was like 60% of his talent.
Wow.
That's what the world saw. He was so far beyond. He was just on another level of communication, of musical intellect. First of all, he was an intellectual. Roy was really quiet. He was a very shy person, but he was super smart. He knew how to read a room. Like a lot of people say, well, Roy was out of it or whatever. He just didn't want to talk to you.
Wow.
And I watched it. It was the funniest thing. We were so many Roy stories, but
wow.
like this guy was trying to talk to him. Yeah, Roy. And Roy's like sitting there like this. And he's like, yeah, Roy. Roy's sitting like this, right? And then the guy, it gets uncomfortable. So the guy left, and then Roy went back to himself, and I was like, right there. Bro, yeah, and he's like, yeah. I watched the whole thing. Wow. I said, I ain't gonna tell the women's story, but he was. But anyway, back to his music, man. I mean, because Roy had perfect pitch. I want to believe he had photographic memory, and he was just he was 100% music. And we had a little separation for a while, but then we came back and played together and talked. And a lot of young musicians talk about him now because he was hanging out at Smalls and going to play every night. And I really feel like he knew his mortality. I know he was getting tired of fighting that fight. And those last years, he was just teaching. He was trying to give as much as he could to the next generation. They were very lucky, because he was very, very giving with his time. Yeah. When a lot of times Roy was in pain, like in serious pain. And he was just giving as much as he could to
Did he know he was special?
He had to. Yeah. But I don't think he wore that on his sleeve.
Yeah.
When he was the young hot shot in the beginning, of course, we were feeling outside our chest in there. But I think he was so much about the music and realized like his connection, his divine connection with the music. I don't think he thought like that. I think he was just like, I just got to play. Yeah. And that's what he did.
So how'd you feel? Do you remember when you learned that he passed? Do you remember where you were at or how'd you get the information? And how you felt?
I can't tell the story because I kind of knew.
Okay.
What was happening before other people knew.
Did you feel relieved that he was free? That he was at a better space, as
you like, my brother's not suffering anymore. Just lost, man.
Yeah.
But I saw somebody that was in pain.
Yeah.
Somebody that was suffering, and you don't want to see somebody you love and care about suffering, And I can say, well, he's at peace now, where everybody says he suffers no more and all that stuff. I look at it as he was definitely a musical prophet. Let me put it like that. And when his job was done, it was time for him to go. Same thing with Charlie Parker. Same thing with Clifford Brown. Same thing with Booker Little and Eric Dolphy. These people that left a little early. Yeah. I think he did what he was supposed to do while he was here, and now he's doing it somewhere else. Yeah. But I mean, profound loss, man. And just, this is a guy that, for all intents and purposes, I have the career that I have because he chose me. He could have chosen a plethora of saxophone players.
Do you know why he chose you?
I guess he liked the way I played at the time,
Well, y'all playing together a lot,
again, that band at Berklee and in the jam sessions, so we realized we had a connection.
Gotcha.
We understood each other, like a lot, like those recordings and gigs, man. We didn't talk a lot, but like we felt each other. Like when he made a move, I was there. And vice versa. It was like when he stopped, I was there.
Man, his debut album, Diamonds in the Rough, bro. We were in a dorm. I mean, to this day, that album is special to me. And all you guys were playing them. Like, it was like, it's a classic. It's one of the classics for me. You got Ralph Moore in there, Ralph Peterson. That's McBride on bass. Stephen Scott.
Probably, I don't remember everybody. I know
Yeah.
Keezer was on there.
Yeah.
I think Billy Higgins is on that one too.
Yeah. Man, that. And it's just the songs and the spirit is just that is, you know.
Bro, it was, I can't explain it, you know, when I think about that, because I have a copy of it. I have an actual album. I never knew they made it into an LP, but it's unopened. It's still sealed. I just keep that for me. But it was a magical time. When people say that, it was a magical time.
To make a record.
That was a magical time, man, because again, I never thought this was going to happen for me. So now we're in what was it? I guess it was RCA Studios that is now the Internal Revenue. And like this studio, like Duke Ellington, all these people recorded there. Like, so it was that in itself was a big deal. But we're in the studio, man. I'm seeing all the stuff for the first time, and you know, and we're putting on headphones and we're doing takes of these songs, man. And I'm seeing people that I've Charles Fambros and all these people that I'm like, I'm in a room with these, you know, these amazing musicians, man. Again, I didn't feel like I belonged there, but I was happy to be there. And
were you nervous?
Yes, of course, man. It's like, you know, this is Roy has done this before.
Yeah,
you know, this is my first time. You know, I'm trying to just not piss anybody off so they don't tell me go home. You know, I just want to be there and enjoy it.
You did it, brother.
And you know, the first, you know, I remember the first time listening to WBGO, and hearing us on the radio. Wow. I never forget that, man. I'm like, it was just like this. Boom, boom, boom. I'm like, we're actually on the radio.
Yeah, wow.
You know, and then we're flying to, I think we flew to Pori, and then we're in Japan, man. I'm like, I mean, thinking about it now, man, you know, 21 years old, and
jazz was on you know, jazz was on an upsurge. I think I call it the Young Lions generation.
That's what they called us, man.
Yeah,
and it was,
y'all, and you were part of the Jazz Futures. Now, in the early '90s, I was the president of Fine Arts Student Council at Howard University, and I put on a concert called the Young Lions. At the time, I knew Roy. I knew Christian McBride, so I knew Tim Warfield. So
yes.
I put together a concert with Alan Palmer on piano, Christian McBride on bass, Aaron Walker on drums, Roy Hargrove, Tim Warfield, and Robert Landon.
I think I heard about that gig.
Yeah. I got it on. I put it on. It's on YouTube.
Okay, I got you. But I think I heard about that.
And I just knew these cats, you know. So I just kind of. And we had a budget, so I said, well, let me try to put this together. And I was able to pull this thing off, man. And I called it the Young Lions concert. But Tim told me, and it may not be true, but he said, I think Roy's manager came to the hit, and he said right after that, I don't know if he came up with the idea of doing the Futures. So he said that might have had some.
That's possible if he was there.
Yeah.
That was a an interesting band, man.
What was that like playing with the Futures?
Bruh, it was good, and then it was like a pain in the ass, you know, because everybody in the band had record deals. So you had a band full of band leaders, and then you had band leaders that thought more of themselves than everybody else. Well, you know, I'm with Warner Brothers. I'm with you know, and I was always the quiet guy again because I was just happy to be there.
Yeah.
And I was like, but bruh, all of us have record deals.
Yeah.
So what?
Yeah.
You know, it wasn't a big deal. So put it like this. It started out nice, and then there was like all these different riffs of who's getting more attention and stuff like that. And our last gig, there's a picture of us. We played at Newport Jazz Festival. I think there's a video of us playing.
I think I know what you get talking
about. And at the end, we took this one band picture, and then we were like, all right, peace. And everybody's just like,
wow.
We were like, it was like we had enough of each other. But it was incredible, man, because we did Europe. We did Asia. We were out for a long time, man, and it was important, and it propelled our careers even further to be a part of that band, man. But it was, you know, we were young, you know, so you got egos and stuff like that. But I think when we got on the bandstand and started playing, that wasn't a part of it. All that stuff was off the bandstand, and that's to be hang out with Tim, who's a beast. Tim taught me how to dress. But that's Tim Warfield, right?
Yeah.
You got to get this this kind of you got to have this kind of knot and all this stuff. Somebody you know about, like I said, Marlon Jordan was in that band. He was cool. He was kind of into like J Mood period of Winton and all that stuff. And then then you had a couple guys that were veterans, like Green was probably a veteran at the time, and Carl Allen, and even though Chris was young, he was a veteran, and then Mark, so it was Mark Whitfield. So it was a good time, man. And there were times that it wasn't good. But it's funny, Mark sent me a picture yesterday of that band. I don't know where we were. It looked like it was a rehearsal or something. And it took me back. I was like, wow, man, these are memories, man, that were amazing memories, And I'm so happy for all of those guys, man, because everybody went off to do wonderful things, man.
No doubt, man. So after you graduated from Berklee, is that when you moved to New York?
Yeah, I came straight to go to grad school.
Okay. Oh, so you went to New York to go to grad school.
Mm-hmm.
And how long have you lived in New York?
Over 30 years now, man.
What was New York like when you were
there?
Yeah.
Well, when I first moved, man, I was never there because that's when we were never home longer than 2 weeks. We were always on the road with Roy. So I would go to my classes, get on the road, do my assignments, and when everybody's partying, have a good time, I'm writing papers for Donald Byrd, or I'm working on some arrangement for Mr. Heath. And because that was my goal, to get that. I didn't know if this was going to last.
Yeah.
I knew I needed to get that master's degree, and I'm glad I did. It was exciting though, man, because people were still alive, man. Some of the masters. You'd be on the train.
Was there still the vibe, that New York vibe there?
Yeah. You walk down the street, you might see James Moody walking down the street, or you see other people. See Gregory Hines. You see, it was just like, and all the clubs were still there. You still had Sweet Basils. You had Fat Tuesdays. You had Condons. You had Zeno's. You had the Knickerbocker. You had all these places where, and Bradley's, which was like the holy grail.
Wow.
That was the place. Bradley's was the club that, if you got a gig, that it was killing. But, like everybody came there. That was like the place, and the lady Wendy Cunningham, who was the wife of I forgot his first name, but the owner of Brad, first name. And she would give us gigs there. So I would play there, Roy would play there, and she would feed us. They had a great kitchen and pay us. It was amazing.
Did you play at Smalls?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. But Bradley's was like the place, like you did 3 sets, and the last set started at 1 a.m. So before the last set, everybody would come. Okay. Everybody was in town. So like I remember one night we were playing. I think Greg was playing drums. I don't remember who was playing
Greg
piano.
Hutchinson.
Yeah, Greg. Sorry, Greg Hutchinson. I'm playing and I have my eyes closed. When I open my eyes, so this is like the piano, and I'm standing on the side, and it's a hall down that leads to the bathroom, telephone, and the bar is right here. And I look, and Ray Bryan is sitting right there.
Ooh.
Back here is George Coleman and Bill Saxton. Right in front of me is Betty Carter and Elvin Jones. And by the telephone, he always sat there with Cecil Taylor. So it was like, I opened my eyes and I was like, right? These people come to see you play.
Wow.
And then Elvin Jones and Betty Carter sat in with us.
Wow.
Yeah. And she was always nice to me. She gave me a ride home one night. But and then I was playing in Paris, and Betty Carter and Jackie Terrison came and sat in on my gig in Paris. It was that kind of period. If they respected you, Yeah. And
I was on her very first Jazz Ahead.
You're lucky. That was the one thing. I try not to be jealous about experiences. I always wanted to do that.
Yeah. I did that very first. It was a bunch of cats.
Man, the list is incredible. The people that went through Jazz Ahead. You're fortunate, man.
I got lucky, yeah.
No, you you were supposed to be there. 'Cause I tell you, I don't get jealous about gigs. Well, 2 gigs that I really wanted that I wanted to do the jazz ahead, and I wanted to play with Art Taylor, but Abraham Burton was playing with him. That was one gig I really wanted when he was playing a lot more alto. But everything else I didn't really, didn't care about so much.
Let's just touch on Queens College.
Yeah.
I know that's you went to Queens to get your master's. What made you choose Queens?
Jimmy Heath.
Jimmy Heath. What was that experience like? And you said Donald Byrd was teaching it as well? Okay. So what was that experience like for you going to Queens?
That was it, man.
You told a story about Jimmy Heath, and you called him Master Heath.
Yeah, I never called him Jimmy. I always get mad because I used to see these young guys, hey Jimmy, and I was like, man, that's not Jimmy. That's Mr. Heath. Unless he tells you call me Jimmy, that's Mr. Heath. He's an elder.
Yes,
you don't go up and treat him like a peer. He's not your peer. But yeah, it was. I went there. Like I said, my teacher at Berklee, my man Bill Pierce. I studied with Joe Lovano, who was like kind of the saxophone guru, and another one, Andy McGhee, tenor player who played with Lionel Hampton, who changed my life because he's the one that got me into Johnny Hodges. Because he was a tenor player, but I remember in my lesson he was playing something. He did this technique. I said, look. I said, man, what was that? I said, show. He said, no, figure it out yourself. I was like, yo, you my teacher, show me that.
Yeah.
And I was pissed, right? I'm like, I'm paying all this thousands of dollars. And something said, humble yourself. I said, okay, since you're not going to show it to me, what do I listen to? He said, well, you listen to this, and this. I said, okay. So there was a used record store around the corner called Looney Tunes. This guy named Lewis, just full of used records. I said, Lewis, I don't want anything with Johnny Hodges, Errol Bostic, all these players. I said, you get it, I'm going to buy it. And he would let me know. Like I still have all those LPs. And that's when I got into Johnny Hodges for like 10 months. Because before I was just listening to Garrett and people like that. And it changed my life, man. But Andy McGhee is the guy that really, really, really changed my life. And Bill Pierce is the one that really gave me a practice ethic and set me up with some vocabulary.
Okay.
Right. But you asked me about the Queens College experience. When I got to Queens, I just wanted to be around a master. I mean, I wanted the degree but I just wanted to be around a master. And I said, I want that traditional relationship, that mentor-mentee relationship. And I chose Jimmy Heath. And I said, I don't know what it's going to take, but we're going to be tight. And, I did everything he asked me to do. I tried to be a good person. And our relationship went from acquaintances to student to like where he considered me like his son.
Wow.
I would go to his house and hang out. Like one day I told you I would go in his music studio. And he's like, what you think of that? And I was like, it's great. It's Jimmy Heath. But one time he called me in the studio and he played this big band. He said, what do you think of that? I said, again, it's great. He said, look at the title. And it said, like a son. He wrote that for me.
Wow.
Yeah, he wrote it.
That's heavy. That's heavy.
Yeah, cry. That's all you can do after that, And, many hours of sitting on the couch with him, man, just talking or, things that got me down and just having that mentor, somebody that had, years. And later on he moved to Georgia. He bought his first house when he was like 90 years old.
Wow.
Yeah, he bought his first house when he was 90.
He went to Georgia?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, Logansville, like right 45 minutes outside of Atlanta. And I went down there and he was just like, man, because he was saying, Antonio, I'm never moving from New York. I'm a New York guy, man. And eventually, he moved down there because his family is down there and, getting older. Yeah. And he was like, yeah. And he was playing Willow Weep for me because he had a willow tree in his backyard. Wow. And I got pictures of Master Heath and Mrs. Heath walking down the street holding hands on their morning walk and stuff like that. Yeah. And he was really happy, man, because his grandson was down there. His daughter was down there. It was just like family that could watch out for each other. And it made me happy to go down there and to see him and that whole family vibe, man. But, that kind of, I searched for that. I think the young kids should do that, because it's just, we talked about so much more than music, man. And I got to watch him. I got to see him as a father. I got to see him as a husband. We talked about, I don't think I ever really knew Mr. Heath to go to church, but he was about as spiritual as you can get. Yeah. Yeah, man, just a small man, but just a giant,
yeah,
a real giant, man. Very respectful. His guy was Dizzy Gillespie. That was his mentor, you know. And because of him taking me on his wing, I got to meet all these other cats like Barry Harris and Sonny Rollins and people like that. You know, because of my association, and they were more prone to being open to me because that's Jimmy's boy.
Wow.
You know, so
Beautiful.
man, I thank him every day, man, and I miss him every day.
Yeah, no doubt, man. And you also became an educator or a professor at Queens College. What has that experience been like being an educator?
Well, again, that was my trajectory. I thought that was going to happen, right? And I always laugh, man. I say, because if my students saw my grades and my transcripts, they were like, "You should be teaching me," right? It's funny, but it's been I have to like apologize to maybe my first few years of students because I wasn't so great a teacher, but I think I've grown a lot, and it's taught me how to be a little more have a little more empathy, to problem solve, to realize that you could have a set curriculum and a set way of teaching, but everybody learns differently. You know, some people are visual, some people learn by watching, some people learn by doing, some people learn by hearing. It's like, and you have to see where people's strengths are to get the best results out of them because it's not a cookie cutter thing.
Do you enjoy being a teacher?
Most times, you know, to be honest, sometimes it's rough because, as you know, as a teacher, sometimes you're a therapist. You know, sometimes you have to listen, and I'm not qualified as a therapist, but sometimes they come in with issues and you have to like improvise. And you have to be there and listen and be able to send them where they need to go if there's somewhere where they need help. And I've had to do that with students. But it teaches you, it definitely teaches you about humanity. It teaches you about how to deal with just different people, man. And the blessing of being a teacher, especially at that level, is I get a chance to practice all day long. You know, so I'm telling them things to do, but I'm taking
You still
notes.
practice with the same intensity and focus?
When I do, I got a new place, and so my second bedroom is a music room, so I bought one of those whisper rooms. So man, I can go in there like 3:00 in the morning and just I can blow normally without worrying about disturbing my neighbors. So before I didn't have that. You know, I didn't have the space. And man, it's amazing to be able to just pick up my horn and practice and transcribe and do whatever I want to do at any time of the night.
Wow. You still have the same passion for music that you had as a young cat? Or has it?
It's not the same passion. It's passion, but maybe directed differently.
Gotcha.
You know, I think in the beginning, of course, you're trying to get your piece of the pie. You want to be respected. You want people to know you. You want to come out with a vengeance and stuff like that. I don't have that anymore. It's just for me, it's just really just exploring introspective who Antonio is. What does Antonio stand for? What does he represent? And try to realize that through my music, through my way of playing. So I still study the masters. I still listen to everybody. And if there's something interesting, I might transcribe it. But for the most part, now it's just like, how do I hear music? How do I want to write? How do I want to play the saxophone? You know, I was thinking about that with this gig last night with Bobby Watson. You know, I was like, he's a master. He does his thing. I'm not in competition with him. I just want to be myself. You know, and when I play now, more so than trying to fit in and just play what I think is acceptable to people, I just play myself. And hopefully people enjoy the ride.
Wow. I want to talk about you as a band leader and a composer.
Okay.
What's some of the challenges of being a band leader? How do you go from being that side man and then now you're leading the band?
Well, the beauty of being a band leader is you play your music, right? Your name's on the marquee. That's probably the biggest part of it. And you get to have people help you realize your direction. The struggle is, you know, you hire people that want to do their own thing too. And you want to make sure that you have people that are going to learn your music, people that are going to be open to direction, positive criticism. You learn how to talk to people. People that are going to show up on time, because plane tickets are expensive, the chains are expensive. People that are going to dress properly, just going to respect your situation. I've been very fortunate with that when, having somebody like Nasheed Waits and, I had James Hurt and Richie Goods and, I had some good people, so I didn't have to worry about a lot of things. But there were times where, people had egos and stuff like that too. And, learning how to talk. I think the biggest thing I learned about being a band leader is learning how to talk to people to get the result that you want.
Yeah. You had a manager
had a couple of them.
Yeah, yeah. Do you currently have a manager?
Nah, because I'm not out there like that right now. And if I do decide to do that, I'll go that route. But at this stage in the game, man, I like the fact that I can go out when I want to, and do things and then come back.
Yeah.
I did that for so many years.
Does that road thing get tiring after a while? I know it's fun. It's fun at first, like when you're young. And I always thought when I did it, I loved it. But I could see that when you have to do that, it can be a grind.
Yeah, and that's the thing, man. Like, yes, for me, I remember I was walking down the street in Brooklyn, and my neighbor said, "How you doing? What's going on?" I said, "Man, I gotta go to Paris." Right. But in my mind, it's like, it's my work.
Yeah.
So I got to go to Paris. And she said, "Oh, you have to go to Paris." And I was like, "Yeah." I'm like, "Yeah, that's what I do. It's no big deal." Yeah. So I'm in Paris and I'm walking, I forgot the name of the street, going towards the Arc de Triomphe. And my feet felt like metal, like lead weights. Like I couldn't walk. Like I stopped.
Really?
And I was like, what the heck is going on? And something said to me, said, "Look around." And said, "You're in Paris. You could be in Brooklyn right now. And you're in Paris. People save up their whole life to come here once. And you've been here many times. Don't not appreciate this opportunity." And from that point on, like, anytime I go anywhere, I appreciate it.
Yeah, no doubt.
So it's just, it's I forgot why I went to that. What were you asking?
No, I was just I forgot what I asked. But you answered it. Yeah. We're talking about you being a band leader.
All right.
Yeah. But and I think I asked you something about, do you still
enjoy the road? And
that road thing can be
exactly.
a grind. So
it is, man, because quiet as it's kept, they're not paying me to play music.
Wow.
I play music. I love playing music. I do that all day long.
Yeah.
You're paying me for getting on a plane. You're paying me for staying in some hotel and everything I have to do in between before getting on the bandstand. No doubt. That's what we're getting paid for. And again, it's a blessing, but it's a lot of wear and tear on your body. You're getting up and maybe you have to catch 3 planes and a train, and then you have to get on the bandstand and play.
Yeah.
People that are paying their money, they don't care that you did all of that. Yeah. All they want to know is they want to hear you play some music.
Yeah.
And so you have to take care of yourself. You have to be physically fit. You have to get enough sleep if you can. There's a lot of things that you have to do.
And you see, like, the kind of person that was, able to kind of, because there's a lot of distractions out there, man. You see, like, the kind of person that, you might go left a little bit, but you gonna,
Yeah, because I saw a lot of stuff, man. I saw. First of all, I read all those books, right? We both have read all those books about Charlie Parker, and the stuff that not only him, that people were doing, and the stereotypes behind us being a musician. A black musician playing jazz. You're already labeled, right? And I said, I never want to be that stereotype. You're not going to look at me and say, this cat, this, and this, So I was very conscious about how I presented myself and the things that I did. I didn't really have any vices or anything, that's just wasn't my thing, and I didn't judge anybody that did what they did. For me, I just wanted to be in my mind and be able to perform.
Longevity has its place.
Has its place, bro. Yeah, we're here, bro.
Yeah,
a lot of cats that we saw on the covers of magazines and stuff. you don't hear about them no more.
No doubt.
And it's easy to get burnt out. It's very easy to get burnt out.
All right, we coming to a conclusion.
Okay.
I want to just touch on you as a composer. Do you have a particular approach to composition?
I think I just have to have a vision of what I'm writing for. Sometimes it comes in the air, but usually it just starts off with some idea, like somebody I saw, or something I read. It might be something that I heard that just really influenced
me. Do you usually start composing the piano?
Usually I write from the piano. Okay. Most times, but there are definitely times that the idea might come on the saxophone, and then I'll sit at the piano.
Yeah, you've become quite the pianist.
People say that, man. I just bang on the piano, but I am studying that now, man. Like really, because I want to have voicings and be able to play melody and voicing. But that's the orchestra, man. Yeah. You have the bass, you have all the alto, the tenor, or the tenor, the alto, and the soprano. Everything in front of you, man. You have every instrument in front of you: the French horns, the oboes, the English horn. Everything's there, and the piano is just such an amazing tool, man, to compose on.
Have you ever run into that proverbial brick wall where you ain't nothing you can't you've done?
Yes, and
so I don't feel so bad.
I used to feel guilty about it. I used to feel guilty, like taking a break. Like Mr. Heath told me he had to stop listening to music for a while just to clear his head and come back to it. Wow. And I think Wayne Shorter talked about doing that. But then Gary Bartz, he just pushes through. Yeah. So everybody has their approach. But when I find I get in that moment burnt, but see, I'm lucky because I have the martial arts. So I have something else that takes me that takes me away from that. And I'm open to listening to all types of music. Like I always tell my students, I say, bring stuff in, and they'll bring stuff that I've never heard before, or players I've never heard before. Or if somebody's popular, that's the one thing I do. If somebody's really popular, I want to know why. So I used to see people with the shirt with the guy with the dreadlocks, or like marijuana leaf, and it was Bob Marley. Mm-hmm. So I started listening to Bob Marley. I realized, wow, what a poet he was. Yeah. What a strong character he was. Fighting for civil rights and stuff. Yeah. And then so I discovered him. Then I discovered why everybody's talking about this Jimi Hendrix guy. Mm-hmm. Then I started listening to him. It's like, wow. Mm-hmm. Then everybody's talking about these Beatles. Yeah. Right? I don't get it. But then I realized, like, wow, Paul McCartney and John Lennon are freaking incredible in terms of songwriters. I did the same thing with the Rolling Stones. I didn't really dig them so much as I dug the Beatles, but they're great, Mick Jagger and those cats. I did it with Van Halen. I did it with Jeff Beck, this amazing guitar player. Rod Stewart and those guys came up around the same time. Mm-hmm. So, like, for me, anything that's popular, I want to know why. I remember we were in Thailand, and we just played all of this crazy Slide Hampton music, right? Roy was on this tour, too. And we played all stuff, and people enjoyed it. And then the next band was Kenny G. And wow, people would just rush the stage, and all the jazz cats were like, Kenny G. And for me, I was like, I want to know why. So I stood on the side of the stage, and what they were playing didn't really move me so much. Mm-hmm. It was like R&B kind of stuff. But the thing I paid attention to was these people were having a good time. Mm-hmm. They were laughing, singing, and dancing, and having a good time. And I said, that's what we want as musicians. Sometimes we get so caught up in our thing as jazz, as we're intellectual and we're on this high level, but we lose the communication with our audience. Yeah. And that's what we play for. Of course, we play for our own satisfaction, but we're entertainers, so we have to entertain. James Moody was sing Moody's Move for Love and Benny's from Heaven every night. He had to. Yeah. Every night. I seen him sing it 600-700 times. Wow. And I know he probably didn't want to sing that song, but he had to. Yeah. But every time he was on the stage, you would think he sang it for the first time with all the manner. I could mimic it because I saw it so many times. Mm-hmm. Same thing with Nat Adderley telling the story about like the Something Else album with Cannonball with Miles Davis, because he wanted to play on that record. He talked about that kind of stuff, and I could word it, wow. But they told it like it was a new story every time because you had to entertain. Master Heath on the bandstand, the way he communicated with the audience. And once you do that, once you bring them in, you can do anything you want.
Yeah.
You can't start them out here because you alienate them.
Yeah.
You know? Because
Roy had that power to do that. He had that effect on people too.
Well, Roy, like we talked about earlier, Roy had something in his tone. What they call the Pied Piper or something. He had something in his tone. Like, again, it wasn't just a note, it was a universe. So when people, the layman person that doesn't know anything about a flat 9, raised 11, they could care less. Does it sound good or bad? Roy was like that. He had a way that, like, really he was able to open up this soul in that note and bring people in. And that's why they fell in love with him.
Wow. Beautiful, man.
Yeah.
Real quick, how did you deal with martial arts? And we were talking about that. I said Justin Robinson's in it, Bruce Williams.
Yeah.
What got you into martial arts, and did that impact your music, or how does that work?
That's my second love. Like, I always wanted to do it as a child. My mom wouldn't let me do it. So when I went to Berklee, I started studying some Shaolin Kung Fu for a little bit. But when I got to New York, and I said, it's something I really want to do. So I started this one martial art kept on coming up, Wing Chun. And I went to different schools. Fast forward 25 years later, it's a very important part of my life. I've gone to China many times to study with masters and research martial. Oh yeah.
So do you approach that like the music? Like, is it?
It's the same. It's an art. It's the same thing. You know, I took a lesson at Shaolin. I hung out with the monks. I ate in the private dining room with the monks.
Kick somebody's ass.
Well, honestly, when you learn the martial arts, the whole point of it is not to use it, and only use it if it's necessary to protect somebody or yourself. So like the when you really do it from that purpose, it's not about fighting. Okay. But I'll just tell you, it works. I'll put it like that. Without saying anything, it does work. But yeah, it's man, it's I'm the first person, man, from those Shaolin Kung Fu movies. I'm the first person to ever play jazz at Shaolin in its 1,500-year history.
Really?
Yeah, I played at the top of the mountain where they have this big statue of Damu, who was supposed to be the guy that brought martial arts to China. But I was up there. Wow. But I wouldn't leave my horn in the hotel. I ain't trust people, you know. Yeah. And I mean, my horn's over there. I ain't leave my horn in the hotel. And it takes about 45 minutes to get up to the top of the mountain, and I would just run up there, and you see the little monks running down the steps and stuff. And it was a monk up there with his disciple, and my guy was like, "Well, this is a famous musician from the United States." He said, "Will you play for me?" I said, "Yeah." So I played "There'll Never Be Another You" for this monk.
Really?
And I got a video of it somewhere, but I'm the only person that's ever played up there.
Man, that's incredible, man.
Yeah.
Dang. What's your we came up with Bruce Lee.
Yep.
You know, and you with a cat like Bruce Lee, it didn't matter he was Asian. He was like one of us. What's your are you influenced by
of course
teachers of Bruce Lee?
I mean, because my lineage, that's where he comes from. His teacher was named Yip Man. They made a bunch of movies. It's called Ip Man, but his real name was Yip Man. And so that was his main sifu, but he really studied with one of Yip Man's students, a guy named Wang Shunle, before he came back to the United States. And I met guys that were there with Bruce Lee in Hong Kong. Yeah. Wow, I mean, I met like from the movies, I met the real guys. Like my teacher, my sifu, Alex Richter, who's a brilliant teacher, but I got to travel to Hong Kong with him and went to this Wing Chun convention where everybody that I ever read about in Wing Chun was there. I'm like the only black guy in the room. Wow. And it's like all these people like, I'm freaking out, man. Wow. And then, going to this guy, Chan Chi Man, he rest his soul. He passed away, Sifu Chan Chi Man. He was one of Yip Man's early students. Like he knew Bruce Lee as a kid. Wow. And I'm looking at his wall and his black and white pictures of him as a kid with Yip Man, the Grandmaster. And, he just welcomed me in his house. He had a wooden dummy in his bedroom. And, yeah, man.
Do you pinch yourself sometime, man?
Man, yeah. Yeah. Because it's, but, again, man, it's through this music. I played at the White House for Obama, right? And it was for a state dinner for the Chinese delegate, delegates. So because of that, that's when I started going to China.
Wow.
So they used the fact that I played at the White House for the Chinese people, and I piggybacked. So I played my music, but I used that to go to Shaolin. I used that to go to Wudang Mountain, to see the Tai Chi stuff.
Yeah.
I used that to go to these different places to see these different masters, man. So the music has been incredible. And then, man, I've taught at these camps of these little Chinese kids, man. One camp had like 400 saxophone players.
Really? Wow.
One camp, I didn't teach this one in the Hunan province had 1,100 saxophone students. And I'm talking about these little cute little kids, man, with sopranos that look like altos.
Really?
Because they so tiny.
Yeah.
But the thing, that's one story, man. I was teaching there. I did it for about 3 or 4 years before COVID. This one group was playing work song.
Playing work song?
They were playing work song.
Wow.
And when they were playing, I was tripping because I played with Papa Nat, but I was looking up in the sky, man, and I saw like Sarah Vaughan and Duke Ellington. I saw these people looking down. It's like, wow, our music's influencing people around the world.
Yeah.
Something that came out of like a really horrible situation, right? Our contribution to the world, or our ancestors' contributions to the world, is just amazing, changing lives. People don't know anything about who they are, but they love this music. Again, they don't know anything about these structures and stuff we talk about. They know how it makes them feel.
Yeah. And we were talking about self-validation.
Yeah.
Coming up here. And when you think about that, there's a lot in our community. People don't feel validated, but yet we've impacted the world the way we have. And that shows us, that to believe in yourself. And to know that you don't have to, like, I'm at a stage where I don't have to. I know I'm black, but but I'm Antonio Parker, and so when I see somebody not black, I don't have to look at them based on this. I can look at their spirit and what they bring to the table in terms of humanity, being a human, and but it's funny, man, is that we, same with hip hop, man. Not only jazz, but hip hop. I remember when I was in Africa, I did a tour in Africa, and man, I was in Togo, and this cat was singing "Yesterday." So he was Ray Charles, man, and couldn't speak a word of English.
Yeah,
it was like, it's amazing, man. And so it just shows you that the power, that you really matter. And you got to really matter to yourself, though. The world can love you and appreciate you and love, but if you don't love yourself and validate yourself, then you still missing the point.
I think that's probably the greatest thing that was said today, man. It's just believing in yourself and loving yourself. There's so many things that are put on us where you feel like you're less than. I don't have the car. I don't have the house. I don't have the clothes. Maybe I don't have the skin color. All these things that people put on themselves. So what are people doing? They're changing their bodies. They're doing all this stuff to be accepted.
Yeah.
And they don't realize. Somebody told me this. I remember this old girlfriend. I changed my phone number because I just didn't want people to see that. She said, "But wherever you go, that's where you are." You know what I mean? Like,
wow.
So you try to go somewhere else, but you're still there.
Yeah.
So it's like doing the inner work to change yourself from the inside, from the inside out.
Yeah.
But I really appreciate this conversation with you, man, and the car ride, because I know where we met each other.
Yeah.
And for us to be 30 years in, and I see what you're doing. I've seen this special before, and I've seen you play. I've seen videos of you playing, and just who you've matured to be as a man. And your contribution to teaching the next generation and the level that you're teaching is very special, because I know I couldn't do it. But man, I'm really I'm thankful for this moment.
Yeah.
I'm really proud of you, bro.
Yeah.
And I just hope you continue, like you just played that recording, like I'm taking home with me
Yeah.
to listen to. But man, just keep on doing your thing.
Yeah.
What you're doing down here is important. And just we just keep on doing it, and we support each other's family, man.
I got a couple more questions before we end it. Music is life, and life is music. that I was listening to you at yesterday when y'all were doing the interview with Sonny Sumter, and you had a stone.
Yeah, I'm gonna give you one too.
Oh, appreciate you, brother. And you gave a stone to
Mr. Watson,
Mr. Bobby Watson. What do you get that from? And what's the meaning? I mean, I guess it speaks for itself, but
that's what Master Heath said. He always talked about there needs to be a balance between the soul and the science. A lot of people are science heavy these days, right?
Okay.
So you don't feel their soul. And he was like, Antonio, music is life and life is music. So you play what you live. You play how you live, which is true for the most part, a beautiful soul like Roy, he played beautiful. Yeah. But I've also heard about nasty musicians that play beautiful too.
Yeah.
But it's all yin and yang, you know, like, you have those two colors, the black and white, but inside the white, you have a black circle. Inside the black, you have a white circle. And that means, like, even though that person is maybe a dark person, there's still something beautiful inside of them. Maybe that's a beautiful person, but inside of them, there's some dark stuff in there. And it constantly changes all the time, So you take somebody like Adolf Hitler, who we consider like just a terrorist, a horrible person, but there was something about him that had to be beautiful too, because that's how the universe is. Maybe he stayed on that pendulum a little too long, but Master Heath just really stressed that, and even not in his words and his actions, he just really, when you listen to his melodies, they're very humane. They're very loving. He wrote about people he cared about.
Wow.
And he was able to capture their spirit in music in terms of how he interpreted it. And a lot of times it came across, because he was very sincere about it. But I think about that all the time, and I talk to my students. I'm like, when you're playing, yes, it's 32 measures, whatever, AABA, but that's the math. That's the mechanical part. But what are you trying to say? And I try to get them to think. I say, okay, it's sunny outside. How does that sound to you? It's snowing. How does that sound? Or I say, what is your favorite food? And I say, okay, imagine that's in front of you right now. Can you smell it? You see it? Now take a bite of it. What does it taste like on your tongue? What did it feel like? Does it satisfy you? Now play that.
Wow.
Or you're in love. You just got out of love. Yeah. Somebody passed away. So it's like music with a purpose that's life driven, opposed to just like, I'm just gonna play rhythm changes and play everything I know.
Yeah.
What were you feeling in that moment?
Yeah.
And I think that's what we get when we listen to like all the people we love, man. It's because it's life.
Yeah.
It's just it has life in it.
Yeah. I know I wanted to ask you this. Who's the musician that initially, like saxophonist, that you that initially like was your cat? For me, it was Bird and Grover.
Well, yeah, we'll agree that it was Grover. But I would have to say Gary Bartz. But then really, before I could understand him, the guy that I latched onto the earliest was Kenny Garrett.
Okay.
Yeah, because I remember I was washing dishes in this place. I was trying to save money for school, in this little restaurant I was working in, and my friend, this guy Timmy, the one I was telling you about, put these headphones on. He was like, "Man, listen to this," and I was like, "What is that? I never heard any saxophone sound like that before." And that was it, man. And I remember going to Berklee, and he was across the street. I guess he was with Miles Davis at the time, but he was with Javon Jackson because they're good friends. And he's like, "Hey, Kenny, this is your number one fan." And this is before he was famous, right? Yeah. So I shook his hand, and I was just like, I didn't let go. One of those moments, like,
yeah,
right. And the funny part about that, I was like, which we all asked me, "Can I take a lesson?" And he's like, "Yeah, yeah, young brother." So I set up a lesson time, and I go to his house, or where he was staying anyway, because he wasn't from Boston. And he's sitting at a piano, because Kenny plays the heck out of the piano, right? And he was like, "Do you know this?" And I was like, "No." "You know this?" "No." Probably 10 questions, and everything was no. Yeah. And he just went, he was like, young brother, you got a lot of work to do, but you know, you have any questions, you can ask me. He gave me his number. He shouldn't have done that.
Wow.
I called Kenny 3 times a week for the whole time I was at Berklee.
Wow.
I called him all the time, bro, and he would be on the road with Miles, so I just talked to his wife. You know.
Wow.
But bro, you know, he was very kind to me at a period, man, and you know, it was just it was nice that, you know, I would transcribe all this whenever it would come out. I would transcribe all the solos and stuff, and then call him and talk to him about it. But he was very kind.
Beautiful, man. I can go on forever and ask you a bunch of questions, man. But I want you to tell the audience you can, and you know, how if they want to contact you, and how what's the best way.
Well, I do have a website that needs to be updated, but it's called it's www.antoniohartmusic.com, so I can take it there. You can contact me at Queens College, antonio.hart@qc.cuny.edu. Instagram, Facebook. You know, I'm open to communicating with anybody and share anything I have. Is for me to give away. It's not for me, and I'm really thankful. So that's how you can contact me.
Well, man, listen, bro, I'm above honored and appreciative that you took time to do this.
Bruh, let me tell you the truth. Let me be transparent. I saw you doing this, and I was like, damn, he hasn't contacted me. And I'm being totally honest, wow. Bro. I was like, I don't know who you were talking to. I was like, damn, T is doing these podcasts. I said, I guess I didn't make the cut. No. So, and then when you contacted me, I was like, wow. And again, that's that feeling worthy and feeling, you know. And that was a lesson for me. I was like really a lesson for me, because when you called me, I was like, wow, God, it happened. You know, it was like, but yeah, initially wow. I was like, wow, he didn't
really.
Yeah.
Dang. I mean, I knew you was gonna be in town. Yeah. I mean, I can't pay for you to come out here, but the fact that I knew you was gonna be in town, I said, I got to at least ask him. And you, man,
but you know, because we family, bro.
Yeah, man. Hey, man, I'm honored, man.
I'm honored. I'm honored you called me. I'm honored that we're talking. We got a chance to connect on a different level and share, man. And just that's what it's supposed to be, man. That's like I said. I would sit at Mr. Heath's house and the phone ringing. It's Sonny Rollins. And they're talking, and they're not talking about music all the time. Yeah, they might be, you heard this young cat, or like, man, you heard Take 6, because Master Heath was totally in Take 6, and then they're talking about other stuff, and we need to get back to that. It doesn't always have to be about music. I was talking to Sharice Jackson, Milt Jackson's daughter, and she said they would have parties, like holiday parties, and like all our heroes be at the party, but it wasn't about jazz. It was about families knowing each other. Wow. You know, Ray Brown, her godfather's Ray Brown, and they would just hang out and do things together, man. We got to get back to that, because that's the music. It's not about the gigs. It's not, you know, the gigs are nice, making the money is fine and all that stuff, but the more we know each other, the more we love each other and spend together, that's the magic on the bandstand. No doubt. That's the magic.
And man, I learned so much about people I interviewed that I didn't know.
Yeah.
You know, and just being able to, like you say, just talk and just get to know each other, man, outside of the music, and I mean, just on the way up here, man, it was like, like we talk every day, man. So I appreciate you, man. And
well, I hope we talk more after this.
Yeah, no doubt, no doubt. Yeah. You know, I'm a loner, by the way.
Same people don't know,
bro. So if I don't talk, it don't mean I ain't thinking about you.
Right. What he just said was, I can't say the word. He's like, don't bother me. You know, I'll get to you sometime. No, that's what he just said.
No, but I'm the kind of cat, man, that when we talk, I can talk to you for hours. Like me and Tim Warfield will be on the phone for 5 hours.
Yeah.
You know, and it's just like, and there's no such thing as time, because, and that's, you know, but just in general, you know,
I get it.
People doing stuff I don't know.
I won't bother you, bro. No, I get it.
Man, bother me. I don't, man. It's all good, man. I appreciate you, man. But man, all the best, continued success.
Thank you, brother.
And man, continue really with the kids, man, and passing your experience down, man, because you were chosen, as far as I'm concerned, because that was a great period, that young line, and you were one of the cats that were chosen, and the fact to see you working with those kids and giving them experience, because like like I'm teaching the big band at Bowie State, and man, and it's a different generation. But what I do, man, I start telling them the stories. I say, man, we used to be in the practice room, and then Roy, we would go get in the car and go, and that stuff is the stuff that gets them like, because it's like storytelling, and that's what I do here because the music has stories that go with it.
Yes.
And you know, I mean, you heard about somebody. I don't know if it's true or not, but somebody threw the somewhere bird.
Right.
And, you know, I read Bird Lives, and all them little stories, man, just made it that much more special in the music. So when we get to talk to you and hear them stories, that add to the music. You did, and so that's what I try to capture. And you know, that's why, you know, and we go all over the place. It's not formal. It's just us talking. You know? And so, man,
continue
again, man,
to do these, man. Continue.
Yes, as long as God provides, I will. So thanks again, my brother. Appreciate you, man.
Thank you so much, man.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, man.
There it is, the great Mr. Antonio Hart, here on A Conversation in Jazz. And we'll see you on the next one.